any amount of time that we spend feeling anything at all, having emotion, having feelings or sensation in our body, whether they feel good or feel bad, is letting us know that our guidance system inside of ourselves is working perfectly. Like how she put it in, Martha Beck put it in the book of it, the Way of Integrity, is that there are these beasts that exist in the forest of doom, or whatever she called it, where like you're lost in the forest and you kind of sleepwalked, you don't know how you got there, you don't know where to go next, like you're just lost in the forest. And there are these beasts that exist there, and the beast's job is to like help you to know, they are relentlessly letting you know that you have diverged from your own inner truth. And when you are in the presence of these monsters, these demons or whatever that are haunting you, that is letting you know that you're out of integrity. And that's where she says, like, how do you get back into integrity? Try to lie less often. Try to be more honest about what's real right now. And that's freaking scary. That's really scary. But let me tell you what's worse are these monsters. And that's why they suck so bad, is because they're trying to get you to not stay there. They don't want you to camp out in the forest where you don't know what's going on. And so these monsters are super uncomfortable to drive you out of that forest. And it's a process to get out of the forest. Highly recommend that book, by the way, The Way of Integrity. Thank you, Maddie. She put the link there in the website, in the chat. Okay, so this monster, the dark wood of error. Thank you. That's what she calls it. I wrote it down. Good job. The first one is purposelessness. That when you feel, and this is a big one for me because purpose has been such a big deal these last few years. Such a big deal. And I think, like, again, when you feel negative emotion, it's not wrong, because I think I've gotten so close to my purpose that, like, at least I can see it enough to like want to internalize it inside of me and carry it and own it. And I want to be the one, and I'm going to like do all these things. And it just was too heavy to think I'm going to carry this and I'm going to do this. Like, the purpose that wants to work through me in part is so much bigger than me. It's not my purpose, it's a purpose, and it's coming through lots of us at the same time. Sometimes it's my turn to do a piece, and sometimes somebody else is doing a piece. Then they show me their piece, and that inspires a whole nother piece. Like, it's not my purpose, it's a purpose. But when you're feeling purposelessness, that is a surefire sign that you are wandering around in this dark wood of error where basically you sleepwalked there doing what you thought you should be doing. Like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I went to college, I got a job, I got married, I had the kids, I bought the house, I did the sports thing, I was the soccer mom, I blah, 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 blah. Like, I did what I was supposed to do. I followed the rules. And now I'm waking up in a sense of like, nothing in my life is meaningful. Talk about overwhelming. When it's like literally nothing in your life is meaningful, like, yeah, that's a horrible feeling on the inside. And it didn't get like that overnight, and you don't get out of that overnight. But what you can do is turn towards the light of your own inner truth 1% at a time, 1 degree at a time, one little bit at a time. Like she says in the book, like, over a journey of 10,000 miles of like an airplane or whatever. Like, if you, every half hour, you take that airplane and you turn it to the right 1 degree, and then in another half hour, you turn it to the right 1 degree, and then another half hour, you turn it to the right 1 degree, you'll end up somewhere very different than if you had just flown straight. And in almost no time, like, you can get somewhere completely different. So these little incremental steps in the 1 degree turns, like, they add up so fast. And purposelessness is the first of those monsters. The second monsters that she talks about are mood monsters. So states like clinginess and despair and depression, that each of us has our own unique brew of bad moods, that some of us turn inward and get really down on ourselves, really depressed, really like just sunken in, like lifeless. Other people get really friggin' mad and hostile towards everybody and they shoot it out into the world. So whether you're shooting it at yourself or you're shooting it out into the world, neither is noble. And these are letting you know that you're not lined up and choosing things in alignment with your inner truth. These wild beasts, it's their job to make your life unbearable when you stray from your true path. So grateful. So grateful for these wild beasts that torment us so and refuse to let us rest when, when we're choosing these things that just, they're not ours. They call it Mount Delectable, or she does call it Mount Delectable, where like we can decide within our culture, like what is the epitome of success, and that becomes Mount Delectable. And so, there was a time in history where being a millionaire was like Mount Delectable, and now that feels like, dude, there's so many millionaires out there that billionaire, okay, that's really where it's at, and that's Mount Delectable. Like, when's it going to be trillionaire, whatever. But it's like culture gets to decide what's up there. And then basically everybody in the culture climbs up Mount Delectable to try to get to this culturally agreed upon epitome of success. And you just keep sliding down Mount Delectable. The monsters chase you up there. They're with you the whole time. And Martha says, like in her book, about how like she's coached people who basically live at the summit of Mount Delectable. Like people who, she talked about one guy who like sold or like took his company public and made $200 million in one day. And he calls her drunk that night and is like, when's it ever going to be fucking enough? It's not enough. It's not enough yet. And I really thought this time it would be enough. When's it going to be enough? And so it's like you just keep falling back down because that's just not what it is. That's what culture has agreed on. And none of us, like literally none of us, are here for that. Like, so again, it's like God asked me, like, what makes you think that you need to do all those things that society says are the right things? Like, where are you getting that's the roadmap you're supposed to follow in the first place? Like, it was always meant to be your own internal guidance system guiding you. But that doesn't mean that your time in the forest is wrong. That doesn't mean that your attempts to climb up Mount Delectable are wrong. That like, even as you go forward and you come out of the dark wood of air and you're mostly living in alignment with your integrity, that you can still pop back in there. Like, we sleepwalk in there. So like, you don't know that you're going there until you wake up and you're like, shit, purposelessness, anxiety. Like, I was back in there like just a week ago, like mostly I'm not in there. And yet it's like when you get into like new spaces within your life, like it can trigger old patterns because, oh great, now you're ready to heal yet another layer of this. If you stay in the dark wood of air for long enough, your physical vessel will deteriorate. It cannot survive in there. And the longer you stay, the more physical ailments your body will rack up. The pain will come, the aches will come, the breakdown of function of what there's, organs and all of it's supposed to be doing. It just cannot function in that environment. The other pieces are more external, where she says like consistent relationship failures are basically the result of, if you're not walking your true path, you can't find your true people. So when you're wandering around in the confusion and lostness of living by somebody else's recipe, you're finding, basically she says, like, you're putting a pretend personality out into the world who's most likely going to bump into another pretend personality out in the world. And then what you create between those two is a pretend relationship. And that's most of what goes on. So, yeah, if you have like a long history of broken, failed relationships behind you, like basically don't worry about it. It just means that like you were in the dark wood of error when you met those people, and that those relationships, they were never going to work out anyway, but that they did help exaggerate the sense of, I don't like this. I don't like how this is going. I yeah, this is not it. It's not this. So consistent relationship failures, also consistent career failures, and basically for the same reason that, like, I knew a person like this where he had started multiple, I'm talking like maybe 7 or 8 businesses, and he was barely 35, and none of them had worked. Like basically 8 startups, like 8 non-starters. And like it kind of like made me really scared for stepping into the entrepreneurship space, and that's probably one of the reasons why I waited so long, because I was like, it's so easy to start something that's not right for you and spend all of this time and energy and passion and all of these resources into this project that truly wasn't aligned from the beginning. And so yeah, it has to fail. If it's not aligned with your true self, the best possible thing for it to do is to crumble under your feet like it never existed in the first place. So grateful. The last one that she gave was recognizing addictions. And that does not have to be a substance. Like relationships can be addicting, social media can be addicting, numbing of any kind, whatever you're using for that can be addicting. Drama and gossip and watching other people's stories instead of making your own, like all of that can be really addicting. And that addiction and numbing, again, is a sign that you are somewhat out of integrity, because it's the discomfort that you're numbing, and the discomfort is coming from the separation between who you really are and what you're choosing in this moment. So there are, let's see. Ooh, here's another fun list that came out of the book. Okay, so these are checking for the dark wood of error syndrome, which basically means you're in the dark wood of error. Number 1, many of my daily activities feel meaningless. Number 2, my job feels like a heavy burden. Number 3, I have trouble sustaining loving relationships. Number 4, I have frequent infections, colds, and flu, etc. Number 5, I don't feel seen or understood by anybody. That one really tugs at me because I felt that way a long time. Number 6, my relationships are often troubled by anger and mistrust. Hello. Wow. Other people seem to be accomplishing great things, but I just don't measure up. Number 8. I'm only laughing because I'm like, yeah, that sounds like me at 20. I have friends whose company I don't actually enjoy. Yeah. It's better than being alone, right? If you feel that way, then yes, it is. And when you've overdosed on those friends whose company you don't enjoy, eventually, for me, there was eventually a turning point that said I would rather be alone than surrounded by people that feel like they're draining the soul out of my body. But it took me a long time to get there. Number 9, I have aches and pains that limit my desired activities. Number 10, I frequently feel annoyed with whoever happens to be around me. Again, that one is like, whoa. Hello, me at the software company, where literally anything anybody said ever was like, please shut up. Please stop talking to me. Number 11, I often feel so worried I don't sleep well. troubles in sleep can be very indicative of there is stuff happening inside of you that, like, in your wake state, you are not acknowledging. And when you let your guard down, when you fall asleep and you're unconscious, then the truth can come into your awareness and you have troubled sleep. You have bad dreams, you have whatever. And again, it's like, yeah, definitely been there. Number 12, I don't feel like my work contributes anything important to the world. So these are things that contribute to that feeling of being lost, where you don't know where you are or what to do next, or if what you're doing even matters. Why am I here? What is the point of all of this? Like, dark wood of error, where dang it, we wandered astray, listening to what they told us we should be doing. And that's not wrong. That's like, as Elizabeth Gilbert says, it's a good guess. And all any of us can ever do at the onset of our lives is pay attention to what we can see and take our best guess at what's going to bring you happiness. And if what you did was model what you were taught from your parents, and that's the path you took to try to find happiness, like, good guess, good try. That's okay. And if at any point you wake up and you feel lost and you can admit that I don't like this and I want something different, I don't know what to do, I need help, like, that's where the next chapter in the process is meeting the teacher, and how she says, like, basically, when you're ready, the teacher appears. Let me get back there. Yeah, meeting the teacher. She says, like, I mean, in the story, which she's writing based on the Divine Comedy, which I don't even think I've ever heard of that, let alone read it. But when she said Dante's Inferno, I was like, oh, okay. So it's, yeah, maybe the same thing. I should have looked it up. I don't know that. But it's like a miracle in the story when Dante, like, meets this old poet from, like, hundreds of years before, who's his favorite poet, and he, like, guides him, and, like, that's a blessing and a help, and helps him proceed, like, through the forest towards the exit of the forest. And, like, it was a miracle in that sense, but that this miracle happens, like, to all of us all the time. And that, ooh, here we are. It's a Joseph Campbell quote saying, "A mentor arrives shortly after a hero has accepted a call to adventure." I'm going to say that again. A mentor arrives shortly after a hero has accepted a call to adventure. And what I think is so profound about that is, so often we are clinging to our current life, saying, bring me the next one, and then I'll let go of this and go over there. And that is not how it works. You got to recognize that this isn't the right one. This isn't it. Not this. It's not this. Okay, I give this back. Now you have nothing. Now you've accepted the adventure of finding your own way, and the mentor is, like, right there. But you can't wait for the mentor. You can't, like, yeah, like, basically how she puts it, like, no mentor is going to be able to give you integrity. Like, nobody can give that to us, but a soul teacher can help us get in touch with our own inner knowing, our own inner teacher. That, like, the teacher you meet when you're lost in the woods, that external teacher, like, that's a blessing, no doubt about it. But all they're there for is for you to get in touch with your inner teacher and your inner knowing of what is true for you personally. And then your inner teacher will walk with you all the way through to the fruition of who you were born to be. And it will come through being 1% more honest about who you are, and then 1% more honest about who you are, and then 1% more honest about who you are. And do that for the rest of your life and see what happens.